21 died in the crash. 23 more are gravely injured. A shocking disaster that has a doubly great impact on Britain, for on the passenger list was the Manchester United soccer team.
Before the tragedy struck, Manchester United was living in a golden era, an era of success, an era driven by a team like no other, the Busby Babes, a group of young, gifted players who rose from the club's youth system to the first team. They weren't just a team, they were a symbol of courage, of ambition, of excellence. They dominated English football, winning league titles, thrilling crowds, and capturing hearts, all under the visionary leadership of one man, Matt Busby. They were unstoppable, destined for greatness, until fate intervened. The team eliminated Red Star Belgrade from the European Cup to reach the semi-finals. In the first leg at Old Trafford, Manchester United secured a 2-1 victory. They played a thrilling 3-3 draw in the second leg at Belgrade, which was enough to secure their place in the semi-finals. In a previous round, they faced difficulties traveling partly via flight, train, and ferry, which impacted their performance in domestic league matches. So for this leg, to facilitate their travel, Manchester United opted for air travel directly from Belgrade to Manchester. The plane made a scheduled stop in Munich for refueling. 2 initial takeoff attempts were aborted after the pilots detected engine issues. The players were asked to return to the terminal, but just 15 minutes later, they were called back again. Captain James Thane, eager to stay on schedule, made the fateful decision to try once more. Tragically, the third attempt ended in disaster. Due to slush on the runway, the aircraft failed to gain speed, skidding helplessly off the tarmac. It crashed through a fence, crossed a road, and tore apart. Its wing and tail were torn off as it crashed into nearby houses. The cockpit struck a tree, and the right side of the fuselage slammed into a wooden hut, where a fuel-filled truck was parked. In an instant, an explosion. 20 people died on the spot. Another succumbed to injuries on the way to the hospital. The co-pilot, Kenneth Raymond, and Manchester United's brilliant young left half, Duncan Edwards, fought for their lives but tragically passed away days later, bringing the final death toll to 23. The Busby Babes' dreams shattered. Manager Matt Busby was severely injured, spending 2 long months in the hospital, battling not just physical wounds but also deep emotional scars. Depression weighed heavily on him. Meanwhile, Manchester United struggled. They slipped to 9th place in the domestic league and were eliminated from the European Cup. Their only achievement that season was a place in the FA Cup final. Busby later found the strength to carry on, inspired by the unwavering support of his wife, Jean. She told him, "You know, Matt, the lads would have wanted you to carry on." And he did carry on. The following season, Busby returned and rebuilt his team. A decade later, his new generation of Busby Babes rose again to European glory, defeating 2-time winners Benfica to claim the coveted European Cup. Memorials were established to honor the players, staff, and journalists who lost their lives in the tragedy. Commemorations were unveiled at Old Trafford, Munich, and Belgrade. One of the most iconic tributes is the Munich disaster clock at Old Trafford, which remains permanently frozen at 3:04 p.m., the exact time of the crash. Johnny Berry, one of United's greatest players to wear the legendary number 7 shirt, was the first survivor player to pass away in 1994 after a short illness. Bobby Charlton, widely regarded as one of the greatest footballers of all time, was the last surviving player of the disaster. He passed away on October 21, 2023, marking the end of an era. The Munich air disaster remains one of the darkest days in football history, but the spirit of those lost will always live on, through the club, its supporters, and the spirit of Manchester United.
And Matt Busby